When you're looking at the assets that you have, assets can also be skills, resources, what you have available to you. Now, if you have nothing, then all you have is your brain, your hands, and the time that you have that you can put towards learning something, which is why I'm a big fan of skill acquisition as one of the primary things that you can do is educating yourself. And not formally educating, but informally or alternatively educating yourself on super tactical things. Once you get over the fear, then you start asking, okay, how do I let people know about my stuff? And what do I let them know? Right? And so you have to have something to sell, which is the offer. And ideally, you want the offer to have as much leverage as possible. Like, so if you sold software or you sold media, those are things that you can cut once, sell 1,000 times. If you have a conversion mechanism, it's like you can't have it be automated like a checkout page or some sort of video sales letter or something like that where people just buy without a phone salesperson. If you add a phone salesperson, there's less leverage. Not to say that's wrong, but you want to have the highest leverage opportunity. And then from the deliverability perspective, I kind of talked about deliverability first, but from the advertising perspective, if you reach out to people one-on-one, that's lower leverage than being able to make one piece of content that a million people see, right? And so over time, you go from low leverage to high leverage, where you have the same inputs, but you just get significantly more for your output. And that fundamentally is like, if we're reasoning out from first principles, how do I get, said differently, the question that someone I think is really asking is, how do I get the most for what I put in? And you have to reason within your current context of your skills and your resources and your assets in order to derive that solution for you.
So if someone walks up to you in the street and they say, Alex, what idea should I pursue? I've just quit my job.
Yeah, right. So I would say business ideas typically come from one of three Ps. So it comes from a pain that you're currently experiencing, a past profession, so the thing that you just quit or some of the jobs that you just quit, or a passion. Mm-hmm. So something that you're inherently interested in that you would spend your time doing anyways, some skill that you learned while you were in the workforce, which by the way is one of the most proven ways of making money because the economy has already showed you that people are willing to exchange money for that specific job. And so in the world of gig economies and solopreneurs, every business can be dismantled into just jobs being done. And all of those jobs can be fractionalized. So anybody, like, we look at any business, you've got sales, you've got marketing, you've got customer success, you've got customer support if you want to differentiate that, you've got product, you've got design, you've got web pages. There's so many different components to a business. You just need to learn one of them. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, boom, you have a skill that you can trade for money that you don't have anybody else to report to. And then pain is usually, I think, in some ways, sometimes one of the biggest drivers is like you had an eating allergy and you couldn't find pancakes that dealt with your specific eating allergy. And you bet that there's a decent amount of other people with that allergy that also like pancakes. And so then you make pancakes that are delicious.
Pursue. How much of that is a decision derived from self-awareness? Because, someone will look at you now and be like, oh no, Alex did this, so I'm going to start a acquisition.com, or they'll say, I saw Steve Jobs did that thing with the computers, I'm going to start Apple. Yeah, right. Or Elon, I'm going to do the spaceships. Mm-hmm. How much do you have to know thyself to know what to pursue?
Man, this is a really good question. So there's a tweet that I love by Andrew Wilkinson, which is, every entrepreneur ever, here's the winning number for my lottery ticket. And so it's like every entrepreneur will say, here's the winning lottery ticket, but it's like that drawing already happened.
Okay, yeah.
Right? And so like you can't cash that ticket in, it's already done. And so people say the word first principles, no one really knows what it means. Some people do, but I think far more people say it than know what it means. And so basically there are foundational truths of business that exist. And the conditions of the environment will change. And so you have to apply those truths to whatever the current condition is. And so that's what I try and tease out with the books and the stuff that I put out in content. But at the end of the day, you have an input of time, like zooming all the way out. Assuming that your goal is to make money, okay, and this is just a purely economic business goal, then you have time, which is the primary currency that you trade it, and you make dollars over a period of time. And so I tend to reject the idea of never trade time for dollars or anything like that, because everyone trades time for dollars. It's just some of us are more efficient at it than others. But even exchanges that occur that just are not denominated in time still occur over time. And so you have this foundational unit of time, which you're going to give in. What we're seeking is the highest return on that time. And so within a business context, there's kind of three levels of things that have to occur in a business. You have to, attract attention, you have to convert attention, and then you have to deliver something for that attention. And in each of those things, you want as much leverage as possible. So you want as little time as possible required to get the most output. And so I have built acquisition.com on basically two primary theses, which are in the logo, which is, this is a fulcrum for leverage.
For people that can't see, it's like a triangle.
Yeah, so it's like a triangle, or the Illuminati, because that always gets brought up. Yeah, right. So we've got the fulcrum for leverage, and then inside of it, you have supply and demand. And I see those as the two foundational principles of business. And so, which is, you need supply and demand to have a business, and then leverage to get as much.
Framework for knowing when to quit.
So I think there's like the math behind it. And the math, I think, is pretty straightforward. So like, when do you quit your business? You've saved up 3 to 6 months of personal savings, number one. Number two is that you have started something, because nowadays in the digital age, you can begin a business on the side that can generate income. And that income, in the small amount of time that you're not working, replaces or at least matches the existing income you have from your current job. And you've been able to do that or demonstrate that income for like 3 to 6 months. If you do that, that's a very like math way of approaching it. That also is basically never the reason that people aren't quitting their job, right? Like that's a really like I have backlog. I've matched my current income with my part-time work, and if I just put my full-time work, I would probably make more. Very reasonable, but never actually the reason that people don't do it.
I was thinking about the two sort of reasons why someone might quit something or feel like they want to quit. And one of them is clearly because it's hard. And that's obviously not reason enough to quit. And then there's another one which you were speaking to there, which is, it's not moving me towards a meaningful goal, irrespective of how hard it is. Like a marathon, you're raising money for a charity you care about. It's hard, but you don't quit.
Yeah.
And then there's, maybe if you're running a marathon for no apparent reason, there was no charity, there was no one watching, there was no like fitness benefit, then that's a good, I guess, moment to consider quitting. My story mimics yours in a way that I didn't realize. I didn't realize you went through a similar thing in terms of the parents' disownership. No real great option to flee to, but feeling like the current path that would have led me to be, I don't know, a business management student was significantly worse on balance than taking the risk. But I think maybe a point of distinction is I was so naive that it didn't feel like a risk.
Yeah. So what's really interesting about that is the guarantee. And so a lot of times we don't look at what I call the don't, which is like the alternate path. And so if I had played out my existing path, I had a guarantee of outcome I didn't want. It was just at a delay. Whereas here, there's a chance that I can make it. And so one of the final kind of frameworks for making the decision was guarantee bad, chance at good. And I was like, well, I might as well take a chance. And I strongly encourage thinking about playing it out. And so what I mean by that is, like, I think fear exists in the billionaire. No, but I also don't think that's his goal. And so I think being really clear on what you want is important. So if you're like, I want to be the richest person in the world, I think it's a terrible goal, but if you want that, great. Well, you have to have a multi-trillion-dollar idea, because by the time that occurs, there's already multi-trillion-dollar companies now. So you've got to be looking at like decatrillion-dollar opportunity. And so believe it or not, basically the bigger the goal, the narrower the scope of the paths to get there. If you're like, I want to make $10 million, I'm like, you can literally do that in almost any business. You want to make $100 million? Probably still almost any business you can do it. On a long enough time horizon, you can do it. A trillion or decatrillion, it's going to be some sort of tech. It's probably going to have some sort of AI. And so you get, basically the bigger the goal is, the narrower the scope of how to get there. But the vast majority of people who are like, I want to be the richest man in the world, is just because they don't know how to like really think through it and be like, all right, well, after like 100, there's really nothing you can't do except buy more big things. But like in terms of your actual consumption, maybe even 20 is like, you can only eat at restaurants that go so expensive. You can only stay at the best hotels. You can only drive the nicest cars. You can do that with about 25 million.
What do you think the cheat code is then? So I've got my idea. What do you think the cheat code is in 2025 to win at the game of attention? Like there's got to be some new rules here, because we've got AI, we've got new platforms, we've got new media. I'll give you a hypothetical business idea. I'm going to be a personal trainer.
Okay.
And I picked that because everyone can do it, and it's a saturated industry. If I'm a personal trainer in the 2025, how should I be thinking about building attention?
So I'll tell you what I wouldn't do first, which is I don't think I try and outscience the science people. Because like unless you have some PhD, there is a PhD guy who's already jacked, who's making content. And so he's more knowledgeable and more jacked than you. So you're not going to win there. And so I think in the game of attention, it's trying to find what is unique, right? And so how do you quote stand out when everyone's loud? And this is going to sound trite, but your fingerprint is unique, literally from a biological perspective, but so is your life and your experiences. And so there's real alpha or benefit to be had above normal level of effort by leaning into you. And so what makes every person unique is what makes their content unique. And so trying to be like, oh, I want to make content like Alex is probably not the best